Hey, in today's video, this is an update of our most watched video. And so we're going over critical FERS mistakes that are made at retirement. We've kind of updated a few additional mistakes. So stick around, check out, Tommy's going to bring us critical FERS mistakes.
Well, hey, this is Tommy Neesmith. I'm a financial planner at Christy Capital Management, where we're helping federal employees retire better, and today's video is especially pertinent to that goal. If you need individual help, go to christycapital.com and click Talk to an Advisor. We're going to go over 8 mistakes that people are making in retirement. The first one is not understanding your service computation date. There's a service computation date for leave, and there's a service computation date for retirement. Many times, if you look on your pay stub, you'll see a service computation date, but that's actually for leave. Now, for some people, those two dates, well, they're the same. If you started working for the federal government, you've worked consistently your whole career and then retire, those two dates might be the same. But for others, they are not going to be the same. Well, let's say that there's some non-deduction service where you work for the federal government, but you didn't contribute to the system. That would cause your date to be different. Some people have military time where they bought back some of their military time. That might cause your date to be different. Where the mistake comes in, and let's say you're 60 years old with 20 years of service and you go turning into your retirement paperwork and it's processing and it comes back that you actually don't have 20 years of service. You only have 19 and a half years of service, and therefore you're not eligible to retire. You now have a big problem. Not knowing your service computation date means you don't really know when you're eligible to retire. So the first thing you need to do is look at Block 31 on your SF50. It gives you your service computation date for leave. You can contact your HR department to find out what your retirement service computation date is to make sure they match. Getting your service comp date correctly figured out is very important. The next mistake has to do with beneficiary designations. Do you have your beneficiaries correct? With the federal system, there are 4 different beneficiary forms. First is the SF3102. This is how you'll select your survivor benefit. If you haven't retired, then you haven't filled out this form yet. The next form is the SF1152, and this is for unpaid compensation. If you pass away in the middle of the pay period, who's going to get your last paycheck? It's whoever's on this form. The next form is the TSP-3 form, which is the beneficiary for your TSP account. Now, if you have had a change in marital status or some type of life change, you want to make sure that your beneficiaries are updated correctly. There have been stories where somebody got married and passed away, and the TSP was still going to their sister and not the new wife. So please make sure you fill these forms out correctly. The last form is the SF2823, which is for your FEGLI. This is the Federal Employee Group Life Insurance. You want to make sure that you have the correct beneficiaries on there. All of these forms can be printed out from the internet and filled out and turned into your agency to make sure you have the right people on there. Well, while we're on the topic of beneficiaries, we also need to talk about contingent beneficiaries. If something happens to you and the primary beneficiary at the same time, you do want to have a contingent. You want to have a contingent beneficiary on there. Did you get that? You do want to have a contingent beneficiary on there. If you don't do this, then the money has to go through your estate and through probate to get divided up how your will states. There can be long delays with probate. Another couple of beneficiary forms you want to think about is with your investment accounts or your brokerage accounts. Let's say you have an account at Vanguard where you own some stocks and mutual funds. You want to get a TOD or a transfer on death. This puts a beneficiary form on that account when there is usually not one. This will help avoid probate. If you have some bank accounts or CDs or savings accounts at the bank, you want to go to the bank and ask for a POD. That stands for payable on death. This puts beneficiaries on the account to also avoid probate and have the money go directly to where you want it to go. Another paperwork issue or mistake is not to fill out your retirement paperwork correctly. There are two ways that you can mess this up. You can just fill the form out wrong, which would just mess up the whole process, and so you don't want to do that. But you can also pick an election that you didn't mean to pick. So you can fill the form out correctly, but maybe you check to cancel all FEGLI and that's not what you meant to do. Well, at retirement, you'll have decisions on survivor benefit elections. You'll have decisions on what you want to do with your FEGLI. The worst one I've seen was sitting in person with my client and an HR person filling out the paperwork, and it was checked off that the person did not want to continue their FEHB healthcare coverage in retirement. Well, I informed the person that she may want to fix that, and they did some typing on the computer, printed the form out again. My client was getting ready to sign, and it still said that they did not want to continue their federal health care. That would have been a huge mistake to fill that out incorrectly. These mistakes are avoidable. If you happen to be a client of our firm and we're helping you with your investments and your financial planning, we will always help you fill out your retirement paperwork. Another problem or mistake is people ignoring long-term care planning. The older people get, the more likely they may need some long-term care coverage. You can either get it through long-term care insurance, or another way of covering it is getting a life insurance policy that has living benefits. This is where you can access the death benefit for long-term care coverage. We did a video on comparing the federal long-term care policy with life insurance, so you may want to check that out. The next mistake involves spousal planning, and it mainly centers around the survivor benefit decision. As a retiree, you have three options as a survivor benefit. This deals with your monthly pension check. Let's say your pension is $4,000 a month. You can leave half of your check to your spouse if you pass away, which means your spouse would collect $2,000 a month. The cost of this is 10% of the original pension. So 10% of $4,000 a month would be $400 a month. That's one option. The second option is you can also do a 25%, which means your spouse would collect $1,000 in our example, and it would cost you $200 a month. You can also leave nothing, where your pension is not reduced at all, and at your death, your spouse would get nothing. But just keep in mind that there is a tie-in with the federal health care for your spouse to continue this coverage after you pass away. And so you have to leave a survivor benefit in order for your spouse to get the health coverage. If you leave zero survivor benefit, then your spouse will get kicked off the health care at your death. And for lots of people, that is really just not an option. Well, let's look at the next mistake. It's not understanding the tax consequences in retirement. When you're doing your planning, are you using gross numbers or net numbers? You're only able to spend net numbers after taxes. Making sure you know what your pension and Social Security and distributions from TSP will be after tax is very important. If you have traditional TSP and you look at your statement balance, that is a gross number. It is not a net number. For you to spend that money, you have to pay taxes. And we have lots of videos on our channel about tax planning and figuring out how to lessen the lifetime taxes, so you may want to check those out. The next mistake is not planning specifically enough for retirement. You're gonna have your pension, you're gonna have Social Security. You'll probably need to take some distributions from TSP. Do you need life insurance? What survivor benefits should you select? What are you going to do with your FEGLI? We talked about long-term care planning, but did you do any of that? How do you know if you have enough? How aggressively do you need to have your money to ensure that you have enough? All of these things can be planned for by getting a full financial blueprint done. That is something we help our clients with, so if you're interested in that, reach out to us. Using generic planning with round numbers can lead to errors. We are typically using 3 scenarios as we build a financial plan. We are planning on you and a spouse, if you're married, to live into your mid-90s to make sure you have enough money. We're going to do a scenario where the federal employee passes away early to make sure that the spouse is okay. That's the scenario where we get into what survivor benefits to leave and what life insurance you need. Then there's a third scenario where we do tax planning. What would it look like if your traditional money just grows endlessly into retirement? What RMD, or required minimum distributions, will you have? Are there some negative tax effects for that happening? Should you do some tax planning where you can shift some of the money to Roth in your early years of retirement to offset potential tax issues later? Those are the three scenarios we're going to go over with you. And that kind of leads into the last mistake, and that it's not getting specific advice from people that understand your federal benefits. Getting generic advice from well-meaning people that don't understand your benefits can be bad advice. They could be a certified financial planner. They could have all the alphabet letters after their name. But if they don't understand your federal benefits, they could lead you astray unknowingly. Your federal retirement has lots of great features. Some of them are really awesome. Some of them aren't. You need to know which ones are good and which ones aren't. Which ones do I sign up for through the federal government, and which ones do I replace using outside options? It's important that if you're going to get help from somebody that understands your system. And that's why we're here for you with YouTube videos and personalized help. Going to our website at christycapital.com and click to talk to an advisor. Also, you can watch some planning videos on Roth planning and other things. So check out this video here on Roth conversion mistakes. You don't want to make any of these mistakes either. If you want to sign up for our next federal retirement webinar, go to christycapital.com/webinar. If you need help, reach out to us and we can talk one-on-one. Well, my name's Tommy Neesmith, and happy planning.